The owner of Turner Motorsports, Steve Turner, is in the house. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning.
Hey, Steve.
How are we doing this morning, pal?
Doing great.
Wanted to have you on to let our listeners visit with you visit with our listeners and such, to give a behind-the-scenes glance at the operation of Turner Motorsports. Let's start at the very beginning. Most of our fans email us or call us and say, who is Steve Turner? No, this isn't a name that rings my bell, that doesn't ring with familiarity with me. Where do you come from? Give our listeners a chance to get to know you. When did you first embark upon a racing career?
Oh, we started going around racetracks when we were real young, and then run dirt tracks for several years, and then run the asphalt tracks out in Texas, and started venturing up into Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, doing late model racing. Run the All Pro Series with NASCAR for a couple of years, ASA Series for 3 years. So just gradually worked our way up, got into the trucks, and then last year the opportunity presented itself for us to enter the nationwide side of it through the acquisition of Braun, and that's how we got here.
Now, it's one thing to be a driver, a racer, a team owner on a late model team, Steve, but when you jump into the sport the way you have, that's quite another. How did you kind of gravitate over to the ownership side of things, especially over now in the second and third tiers of NASCAR?
Well, we're able to surround ourselves with good people that's been in the sport a long time, and we just use their expertise and manage them and take their advice on a day-to-day basis, and that's where we think we'll be successful. We didn't go in and try to change the whole world or say this is the way you got to do it. But those guys know what they do. They've been in it a long time, and we feel good, real good. We got Trent Owens in our nationwide side, Michael Shelton over on our truck side, and feel real comfortable with both of them.
When you decided to jump headlong into the NASCAR Nationwide Series and the Camping World Truck Series, you obviously did it with many teams, and you say that you relied on the expertise of others. What is it that you were looking for? When you decided to make that jump, you obviously tapped good people to be a part of the process, but what did you look for inside those folks?
I wanted people that would speak honest and had the same moral values and the same common goals that I had personally, and that was what we were able to do.
And when you pair up those people, let's say from a crew chief driver team perspective, there's been a lot of talk, as you know, in the offseason about what Rick Hendrick did with his team and look at his personalities and his personnel and try to match them up. You had to do the same exact thing. Are there certain attributes and characteristics you look for when you're trying to put a crew chief with a driver, Steve, to get the best benefits out of that pairing?
Yeah, the driver and the crew chief has to have the chemistry. We did some changing in the off season on a couple of the teams, and brought in Jimmy Elledge to help our 31 nationwide team with Justin Allgaier. Thought we were bringing in a lot of depth to put on the pit box with a young driver. And then Eddie stayed with Jason Leffler. We felt that was a real good mix at the end of last year. We watched and the communications was great there. And then took Trent on a 32 car, Dollar General car, and he's pretty much our flagship crew chief. And then we got Stuart Cooper on a 30 car, and he's probably got 7 different drivers that he'll have to work with this year, but his personality is such that he can work with a new driver every week.
Now, it's one thing to go into one series, Steve, but you've gone into both the Nationwide and the Truck Series. I want to kind of dive into both of those a little bit if I could. First of all, on the Truck Series side of things, what is it about the Camping World Truck Series as a whole that you see that you want to be part of that series as a team owner?
The Truck Series reminds me a lot of the Saturday night short track racing. You're racing door-to-door, racing every lap. The one thing that I'm really, really excited about this year is the competition in the truck garage is stout all the way through it. It's not just 10 good trucks anymore. You got 25, 30 good trucks every week. So you really got to be on your game there. And I like that kind of racing. The racing is a little bit shorter, but a little bit more physical, and that sort of fits my style.
2 trucks will be fielded by Turner Motorsports in tomorrow's Too Tough to Tame 200 at Darlington. Ricky Carmichael will join forces with Brad Sweet. Ricky in the 4 and obviously Brad in the 32. Let's talk about the nationwide side of the house. 4 teams over there, and you've talked about what you look for in the folks and ran down really the brief roster. I guess in general, you've made a 4-car commitment in the Nationwide Series, a 2-truck commitment in the Camping World Truck Series. How did you land on that number? Why 4-2? A lot of folks prefer to ease into the process and ease into ownership and rolling out teams. You've jumped headlong into 4-2. Why that number?
We actually 4-3. We've got three full-time trucks this year. We got the 31 truck with James Busher in it running full-time also. Our goal going into the year was to be a 3-truck, 3-car team. And then as it evolved with the new point system and some of our commitments to sponsors to run some cup drivers in certain events, we felt like in the nationwide side with Jason Leffler, Reed Sorensen, and Justin Allgaier, we had 3 drivers that was very capable of winning the drivers' points championship, and we felt like we needed to make sure that they ran every race. And so in doing that, we had to start the 4th team to make sure that we had the inventory for them to make every race.
And you've got an interesting mix of veteran drivers there, as you mentioned, on the nationwide side of things, and some younger drivers over on the Truck Series side of things. Although Justin Allgaier is certainly a young guy on the nationwide side of things. How about the challenges of working with younger drivers, Steve, from your perspective?
We like working with the younger drivers. That's it's going to be real exciting to take Carmichael, Busher, or Sweet and get the first win with them. In one of NASCAR's top 3 series. That's going to be really exciting. It's going to make me have a feel of a good, nice personal accomplishment. It was great to win last weekend with Mark, but when you got Mark Martin in a car and you don't win, you're sort of disappointed.
I was going to say, Mark Martin took you to victory lane in Las Vegas last week. What kind of personal satisfaction do you get that the driver that's won the most races in the NASCAR Nationwide Series got another one for himself and got one for you along with the process?
You have some satisfaction, but it's still sort of expected. Mark put himself in a position to win. Had Brad not had problems out in the last lap, we'd have had a 2nd and 3rd place finish, but Mark stayed with it all day long and showed that tenacity that he's always shown in anything he's in, and put himself in a position to win.
Kind of curious how that situation and deal came together for Mark to join your team on a limited basis this year. And I guess, Steve, the other question, the follow-up to that is, what's he brought to your team? And just being there on a part-time basis, what has he brought to Turner Motorsports as a whole?
Mark's able to get in our equipment and give us feedback that some of the younger drivers can't give in more detail, and he's able to evaluate our equipment to tell us if we're heading in the right direction, changes we need to make, look at our organization, and also to give the younger driver someone that they can go to get advice from a driver that is a very, very straight shooter, has probably the hardest work ethics of anyone in the garage.
Talking with Steve Turner, owner of Turner Motorsports, in the NASCAR Nationwide Series and the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. 3 of his trucks on display tomorrow night at Darlington. And as we look down the road, there's obviously a master plan for Turner Motorsports, a 3, 5, 10, and 15-year plan. What's next for you after you start winning these races, get in championship contention? Any interest in going in Sprint Cup racing?
No, we have no interest in that. Our goal would really be if we could run 2 to 3 trucks in the nation in the truck side every year, and be a 3-car team in the nationwide side would be a perfect mix, we think, for us, and would follow our business model. We're running a little bit more now than we really want, but it's just the way things presented themselves with sponsorship and drivers for this year.
Why no Sprint Cup aspirations?
It's interesting.
We'll leave them to Rick Hendrick and Jack Krause. They've got real nice deep pockets. We'll let those guys do that, and we'll learn from them.
Well, all right. Well, that said, short term then, at least going into this year, Steve, with everything that went on after the acquisition with Braun and everything that kind of shook itself out to where you are today, what goals did you have going into 2011 for both the trucks and the Nationwide Series programs?
Our goal is, like every racer, to win races, win poles, and to ultimately win championships.
And you've gotten off to quite a good start. Mark Martin taking you to victory lane in the Nationwide Series last weekend. And you've got 3 drivers who could get it done at Darlington tomorrow night. We appreciate you coming on and visiting with us and giving us a little insight, a peek behind the curtain there at Turner Motorsports. You got a great bunch of guys driving your cars, crew chiefing your cars, and there's no reason to believe we won't be seeing you in victory lane a whole lot more in 2011.
We sure hope so, and thank y'all for having us on.